Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Hope everyone is well. I'm getting all set up here, so we'll begin in just a minute. Looks like we've already got a bunch of people on, so that's great. I'm sitting here in my office in Stowe, Ohio today. Where is everyone else? Hope everyone's safe and didn't get too hurt or harmed by the hurricane in Florida. All right, we've got a few people coming in. That's great. Hey Luna, hope you're okay there and that everything's good. Denise, good morning from Arizona desert. I love Arizona. All right. Ever Blooming Originals, Maldian. Hey from Cali. Laramel from Jamaica. Wow. All right. Portugal. All right. Okay, look, I'm going to start because I don't want to be going too much over the hour. We've got a huge agenda today, so let's get straight into things. If you've got any questions, feel free to type them into the chat window there. I will be pausing between the presentation and the slides and answering questions from the Facebook group and going in to see what's going on in the chat, so feel free to ask questions in there. And as usual, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel and click the little bell icon. That'll give you notifications when we add new videos, and you can stay in touch with all the latest videos that we create here. So, all right, let's see, a few more from Florida, Scotland. I know you're from Scotland, Pam. South Carolina. Hey, Sandra. All right, so let's dive in. Actually, before I dive in, I do want to show off this. So let's see if I can do this right. This is me just being a little bit of a geek here. Check this out. Sorry about the background here. Where am I? There we go. An SEO expert walks into a bar, bars, tavern, beer garden, lounge, hangout. I had to get it. Sorry, I just had to geek out there. I saw that on Etsy. Someone mentioned something about this on the Handmade Alphas group the other day. I laughed my butt off. I had to get it. So I popped onto Etsy and managed to find a shop that sells them. So I'm happy as a dog with two tails today. So sorry for the little geeky moment there. I am going to shout out, though, Nova from Best Life Apparel. She shipped that out so quick. It was awesome. If you're tuning in today, Nova, thank you very much for the shirt. You know, I saw it, I had to buy it. It's just so hilarious. My wife laughed and laughed when she saw it. Anyway, so that is my little geek out, little SEO nerd moment. So I will actually get on with more official business here. So let's dive in, huh? It's great. All right, I've given you the ramble about subscribing. So let's begin here. So we've got a huge agenda here, 12 questions. There was actually more in there, but I tried to merge a few in together in the interest of time, so hopefully I don't skim over too many. I do have to apologize. There are a couple of tricky ones that came in overnight, and I just really didn't have enough time to prepare for them, but they are great questions, so I will be following up in the next Q&A on that one in a little bit more detail as well, because I think you deserve a bit more information. So let's dive into the first one. So Joanne asked this great question, which is, what's the difference between the rank checker and the bulk rank checker? And share some best practices. So this is what I've got to tell you about the rank checker. So and the bulk rank checker as well. So really the goals. Oh, and I've lost a couple of words on my slide here. So I'm gonna have to wing it a little bit, but basically the goal, or the number one goal, is really to check where your listings appear on Etsy for the average buyer on Etsy, which is unbiased by personalization, localization, and ads. So that's what the goal is here. So if you're curious to know if you're on page 1 or page 2, then you can use the rank checker to do that. And when I talk about personalization, this and localization and ads, these are all the other things that Etsy layer on because they think you are showing some sort of tendency to buy something from certain shops. So it's a great way to remove all those biases and get more of a raw feeling for where your listing is appearing for the average buyer in there. So that's what I really like about the rank checker. I know a lot of people like to dump on it, but to be honest, it's that personalization that really can mess up your perception. You can try incognito. Etsy still know your IP address. You can try VPN, but guess what? Whatever search activity someone else that's been using that VPN and that IP address, Etsy's going to think you're that person as well. So it gets all really screwed up very quickly. So I really like to do that. Use the rank checker for that. And the other thing is that I contacted Etsy about this because people were asking, and I thought, is it the case? And yeah, they confirmed this is what the average Etsy member will see. So that's what it's there for. That's really the key strength of it. In terms of what's unique to the rank checker, obviously you can get keyword and tag ideas, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a second here, but you can get keyword and tag ideas, and it scans the top 500 listings. So that's about 10 or 11 pages, the first 10 or 11 pages on Etsy search results. So it's a very deep scan of Etsy to see where your listings appear, if they're in there. The things that are unique to the bulk rank checker, obviously, you can search up to 20 keywords at a time. It is slow because we've got to do a lot of downloading of data from Etsy and processing it. And to speed it up a little bit, we only scan the top 100 listings in that case. Otherwise, you'll probably be waiting 10, 15 minutes for it to actually process. So that's the limitation and the benefit there. Excuse me, you don't get the keyword and tag ideas, but you get a good sense of whether your listings are appearing on page 1 or page 2 for up to 20 keywords at a time. So that's that. Now, that's the key differences there. So Joanne, I hope that helps with that part of your question. The second part is really around best practices. And what I've spelled out here is I always recommend you use the rank checker and the bulk rank checker for searching for your superstar keywords. So if you create needle felted dogs, then I would be looking for that. I wouldn't be looking for dogs or felted dogs. You know, what is it you want to be on page 1 for? Those very specific long tail keywords, those keywords that have got some purchase intent behind them. They're the ones that I recommend. So do that. The other bit you can try is going into the Keyword Explorer, starting with that broad search term, and then looking at those long tail keywords, and then plugging them into the rank checker or the bulk rank checker, because those ones I think are more likely the terms that people are searching for when they're ready to buy. And lastly, generally avoid broad keywords. You know, they don't particularly have a high purchase intent, so you could rank for something on page 1, but if no one's interested in buying it at that stage, they're just researching, then you're patting yourself on the back, but you're not going to get any sales from it. And on the flip side as well, and I should have mentioned this in the slide, but don't get super precise, because again, if you type in, needle felted dog, Chihuahua, custom, something like that, really, really specific, there may only be 2 or 3 listings there anyway. So again, same situation. You may be so niche that there's no competition. You're the only one that's appearing. And if you sort of pat yourself on the back and go, I've achieved all I need to do with SEO, you've still got more to go. So you need to find good long tail keywords with a little bit of competition in there as well. So I hope that helps with the best practices. I'm going to switch now because I want to give you a quick demo of using it, because sometimes people don't realize this tool is there and ready for you to use. And I've got to thank Pam, because she's allowed me to use her account as a guinea pig here. So thanks, Pam, for that. I'll try not to reveal all your great keywords here. So let me get my browser ready. And let me just check, make sure there's nothing firing up in the comments here. Okay, no, it looks like we're pretty good there in the comments. All right, so let's switch over to my browser. Okay, there I am. All right, so what I've got here is I've got custom needle felted dog, and I hope that's a fairly sort of targeted keyword for you, Pam. I'm not sure whether that's one you focus on. I just looked at a couple of your listings and went, this this would be something I'd search for when I'm looking for a gift like that for someone. I've also included Pam's shop name in here because obviously I'm using her shop for the demonstration purposes. I'm leaving the location as all, so that's typically what I do. So I just click on search here. Now it's going to go and chew and download 10 pages worth of data from Etsy, and it's going to try and find all Pam's listings in those 10 pages and then report back on where it found those listings. Okay, and here we have it. So as you can see, we give you some pretty high level data that we've got about the keywords. We don't have any search data for these, but I wouldn't be too worried about that. I think that there are some good words already there, like felted dog, that will generate results, so I'm not too worried about that. Same with the competition. I look at that and I go, 2,000, that's pretty healthy competition, and it's small enough that I think that Pam can do a good job in owning these searches, and you'll see that just a little bit further down. So I'll skip down to there. So let's see what we've got here. So we can actually see that Pam's done an awesome job for those keywords that I entered in there. So she's got multiple listings on the first couple of pages on Etsy. So that's terrific. I think that's awesome. That's what I wanted to share with you. That's part of the benefit of using the rank checker. So you can get a sense of where your listings appear for those keywords. The second benefit that I like to suggest to people when they go to using the rank checker is it's terrific for getting keyword and tag ideas and comparing images as well. Because if you go a little bit further down, what we do is we show you those results that we got in the first 10 pages on Etsy. So I'm just going to scroll down here. I'm not going to fixate on it too much, but I really wanted to point out a couple of things. So you can see, based on the order that Etsy determined at the time, what those listings are. Now you may look at that and spot a few things that look a little odd. Maybe this listing here's only got 75 views. Maybe you don't want to read too much into that. It might be just getting a temporary boost from Etsy. So what I like to do to get some really neat ideas, I like to sort by views, because this tells me what the most popular, most viewed listings are. And I'm trying to find ideas and maybe some good habits that I can pick up from other sellers that are out there. So you can see here, and apologies for singling out people here, but it looks like there's a listing here which has done a phenomenal job, over 100,000 views. I would be looking at that going, wow, what did you do? Why is this so wonderful? You know, I can already see the pictures look great. The little dogs look so cute. So I can see the words that they've used, the tags, and I can start to focus on the ones that have been really successful and try and learn those good SEO habits from those sellers. So that's really what I like about the rank checker, and that I hope that you can use this information to learn from those that have done a really good job and make more sales, right? Okay, so the next part I want to show you is the bulk rank checker. And I've already run this because it takes about a minute or so to complete. But same sort of scenario here. I ran some different keywords in here. You'll notice that I put in here needle felted dog, custom needle felted dog, and dog. And you can see that I put in a deliberate, very broad search term here. Dog, even felted dog, could be a little on the broad side. And what you'll see in the results that come back here are all the listings from Pam's shop for those keywords. And you can see, and this is no surprise, there are no instances where her listings came back for dog. Makes complete sense to me. It's just way too broad, and to be honest, I wouldn't care too much about ranking for that word, because what do they want with a dog? You know, do they want a dog collar? Do they want, could be anything, right? So not worried about those ones. So I wouldn't really be worried at all about single word terms here. Maybe there's a few exceptions now that I say that, but I wouldn't be particularly worried about it. I look at needle felted dog and I think, this is getting pretty specific. So maybe there's an opportunity for Pam to work on that a little bit. She may want to go back to the rank checker and just check where her listings are. She may be just outside page 2, maybe on page 3 or something like that. In which case, you know what? It may be okay. It may be fine there. Or maybe she can do a little bit more optimizing, maybe repeat that exact phrase in the title and in the tags, and see where it goes from there. But that's what I like to use the bulk rank checker for. I think it's a neat little way to quickly get a sense of where your listings are. Again, use keywords in here which make sense, that are relevant to your listing, and avoid the broad terms that are out there, because I don't think you're going to get a lot of value from words like dog in this instance here. All right, okay, so let's switch back to here. So Joanne, I hope that answers your question. If you're watching, just let me know, that'd be great. All right, so let's continue here. Back to my slide. Let me switch my screens here. Okay, so question number 2 comes from Bridget, and this is a good question around CPCs and if there's any insight that I can share around those. She's been looking at some of the data we've got on eRank, and she's noticed that some keywords have a $6 CPC, and like anyone I imagine out there, you'd probably freak out if you had to pay $6 per click. So the first thing I want to point out, and this is really important here, eRank, we only get the estimated cost per click for Google web searches, not for Google shopping searches. I mean, I would love to have it for Google shopping searches, and I'm looking for that, but at this stage, can't find it anywhere. So please keep that in mind. What you see there is for Google web searches. Now, there could be some similarity between Google web search and Google shopping cost per click. I just don't know. I don't have enough data to say whether that's the case or not. But keep in mind that the CPCs could vary quite a lot between the two, because you're getting 2 different types of advertiser bidding on those keywords there. Always on using the most relevant keywords to describe your listing. You shouldn't stray off that. You shouldn't put words in there or exclude words because the CPCs may be too high or too low. You really want to focus on relevancy. That should always be the case. You should, look at the data, get an idea of what it tells you, but at the end of the day, you need to apply common sense there. And we don't have algorithms that can help you think, but we've got algorithms that can give you good ideas. So keep that in mind. I would also refer to your Etsy ads stats as well to see if you can get an approximate CPC. Now, I think that there have been a few little updates in the last couple of days in the Etsy ads reporting area. So I think, maybe Pam, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you can now start to get an idea of what the CPC is for some of your listings, and maybe get to a point where you can get it at a keyword level. But check there, see what you can learn from that there. Unfortunately, that's something I can't control or influence. That's with Etsy. I think they need to really work on their transparency and their reporting so that you have enough information to feel confident that you can put your ad campaign management in the hands of Etsy. I think they need to do a little bit more work there. I think most people will agree. The thing I'd be looking at as well is making sure that the CPCs, if they're high, keep an eye on your profits as well. Sometimes you can have a high CPC, but you can make a lot of money as well. That's why a lot of advertisers bid high. But if you're selling the math, it just doesn't work. So you've got to make sure that it's profitable. So keep an eye on the profit levels as well. The higher it is, the more of a chance that your profit's going to get. Is creating a separate listing with different keywords in there. If you feel like you want to have a little bit more control, maybe remove some of those keywords that have got you worried. But I would be very careful about modifying your existing listing, especially if it's a bestseller, because you may have some good organic traffic going to there already from Etsy. So maybe clone that listing, remove some keywords, and make it a little bit more laser focused and promote that listing rather than your regular bestseller. It's an option. I think there's some solid logic or reasoning behind doing something like that. I'd love to hear from anyone that's tried that already. Specifically, I'm talking about created a listing purely for promoted listings or Etsy ads where it may only have 3 or 4 tags. I know I've had some good conversations with some other Etsy experts about that, but no one's actually shared any data with me around whether that works or not. I will be trying it with my wife's shop as soon as she lets me get in there and tinker with it. But at the moment, we're just letting her Etsy ad campaigns run for another week because we need more data. Yeah, and like I said, avoid removing those good keywords from your listings, especially your bestsellers. Okay. All right, Bridget, I rambled on there a little bit, but I hope that answers your question there. I'm just going to quickly have a look at the chat, see what's going on in here. All right. Okay, thanks, Pam. That's good. We have individual listings cost in now, but it's glitchy. Oh. Okay. Keep an eye on your daily budgets, folks. I think there's going to be a little bit of turbulence, I think, for another week or so. Maldian says, if I use black leather bag in the title and tag, is it necessary to repeat bag in the title and the tag? You need to have bag there somewhere, I think, because if people are searching for black leather bag, then they're going to be putting in the word bag in there. They wouldn't be searching for black leather. So I would, at a minimum, have bag in your title somewhere where it's obvious, if people can't determine that from your picture, that it's a bag. So I think black leather bag would be a pretty good candidate for being in your title and your tags. I'd maybe even try and get a little more specific. So if there's a style or pattern or texture or something like that you can include in there, that may help get even more precise in your title. But I think I don't see any problem at all with having them in there. All right. Hey, Nova's on. It is a great shirt. I love it. Yeah, you can certainly post a link in there. You're more than welcome to do that. If any other SEO geeks out there want to buy that shirt, by all means, it's awesome. And Nova, she did a great job. Got it to me super quick. By all means, Nova. All right. So let's see, Melody, just getting back to your question here. So I'm just rereading it again. Brain's a bit slow right now. Yeah, to be honest, the more I think about this, if you've got that word in your title, I think that's really good, because the title is one of the things that I would look at as a buyer and go, am I looking at the right thing here? So if you've got bag in there, black leather bag, that's going to reassure me that I'm looking at the right listing. I didn't look at the picture and click on it by mistake, and I'm looking at something else. So yeah, I think that's fine there. You probably don't need to keep repeating bag over and over again in your tags, though. I think that gets repetitive, and you may want to drop that, see if you can get enough space in those 20 character tags to put in a descriptive word in there, like I said, textures, styles, maybe even recipient. Okay. Okay, hopefully I've got that, Melody, and if not, please let me know. I'll move on, and I'll keep an eye out for your response there, Melody. Okay. So we have Anne-Marie with Melody. Oh, okay, I got it. Thanks, Melody. Okay. So Anne-Marie's got a great question that she posted in the Facebook group around eRank for websites. And for those of you that have been using eRank or Etsy Rank, you'll know that there used to be a website report in there, which was probably the most basic, almost useless website report you could ever imagine. It was terrible, but I put it in there to measure page speed and some very basic information that could be used by Google to decide whether they're going to boost your website or not. That went away because it just was a real pain to maintain, even as simple as it was. But we are seriously considering adding this. There's been a lot of stress after the two most recent announcements from Etsy, where people are seriously concerned. Etsy is no longer the one and only choice for a lot of people out there. There are a lot of sellers out there like Anne-Marie that are going, I need to start diversifying, stop having all my eggs in the one Etsy basket. So for anyone out there that has a website, we are seriously considering bringing back the website report. I'm going to give you a little tease about what that may look like. It's still very early on, but it's something that we're working on quietly behind the scenes. In terms of what you can do right here and now, we do have the Google searches column, which gives you the average monthly searches on Google. You can see that in the keyword tool and the keyword explorer if you're a pro member, so you're welcome to use that for your keyword research. We're also looking at ways that we can get even more keyword data into the site, so we can do much more for you. Let's see, who's interested in checking out the little teaser for the websites? Anne Marie, are you online today? No, maybe not. All right, I'm going to show it anyway. What the heck? It's always fun to do these things. Let's see here. There we go. All right. So this is a very early tease about what the website report could look like. So I ran it ages ago on the old eRank.com website. You can see the old design there. But what we're looking at doing is looking at the structure of the page. Is the necessary metadata in there? Is there anything missing? Giving you some warnings about that if it's missing. Looking at the way you use headings on your page to emphasize keywords on your website. We're going to learn that. We may even put in there things like competition and CPC, just to give you an idea of whether people are bidding for those keywords as well. Because you want to be pretty aggressive with your keyword selection. If you're trying to sell something and no one else is trying to sell something, chances are that no one's interested in buying it either. So think about that for a second. If no one's searching for it, no one's bidding for it, and there's no competition for advertising for those keywords, then maybe no one's searching for it. Oftentimes those high CPCs and those highly competitive words that people are bidding for on Google web search, they're like that because those people that sell those products know that there's money to be made there. So we're going to look at putting that in there as well. I don't think there's much else we can show here. There's we've got some statistics in here as well. I'd forgotten it's been a little while since I've looked at this. We're doing some image analysis as well to see whether any images haven't been set up correctly and things like that. So lots of little things there. I'm going to stop at that point because I don't want to share too much or overpromise and then we find that something just doesn't work. So I'll stop at that and let you ponder that one for a little while. Anne Marie, feel free to message me if you've got any specific concerns or ideas, and we'll see what we can do to help you there. Okay. All right, let's switch back to the presentation. Sorry, I'm just jiggling windows here. There we go. So now, Anne Marie actually had two questions in one. So part two of her question was, she's telling us that she's in the UK and was very curious to know if we're going to have any country-specific tools for the UK in the near future. She is interested in keyword stats, any other country-specific data that we can provide, and getting some currencies in pound rather than in pounds. So there are two problems here in terms of the data. So getting country-specific data, it's expensive. So I've got to watch my budget because I'm not rolling in cash, unfortunately. So I can't just go out and buy it. The other problem is that countries outside of the US don't use Etsy as much as in the US. So there's less data available. And when there's less data available, it means there's going to be lots of unknowns. And I want to make sure that before I go out and buy this, a couple of things, enough people want it, and that the data is actually a suitable, high enough quality that it's useful for you. So I'm doing some research there. I don't have anything to report back yet, but if I do find the data that I think is at the right quality levels and affordable, then I'll get it for you. In terms of other countries, the it looks even less likely. So same sort of situation, expensive, and there's less and less data. Etsy really is highly used in the English speaking countries, but then it drops off pretty quickly, probably with the exception of Germany, Italy, and France. So keep that in mind. In terms of the pound, there are a couple of things where we can help you already today. So if there are any, let me rephrase. Most of the data we get from Etsy is in US dollars. We do get some in local currencies. We also have access to foreign exchange rates, so we can, in theory, convert a lot of the prices that you see in eRank to your local currency. So Anne-Marie and others that are watching this, if there is a certain page on eRank that you would like us to look at converting into your local currency, hit the feedback button on that page and let us know what we should be looking at. I can't promise anything right now because we've got a couple of other big projects that we're working on. But sometimes, you just don't know. It could be a simple calculation change that I can make in the code, or our developers can make in the code, and boom, it's up the next day. But let me know. I'll make a note of that because we record all the feature requests and feedback that comes in, and hopefully we get some good news for everyone there that's interested in country-specific information. All right, so let's see here. Just popping back into the chat here to see what's going on. Let's see, Nova, okay, question. Is it okay to use tags like tees, tops, shirts, or is it useless because nobody would actually... Okay, it's neat. I like that because if you've got a tag with those words in there or synonymous terms in there, Etsy will look at those and they'll mix and match those with other keywords in your listings title or other keywords that it finds in your other tags. So I like it. I think it's great as, if you're struggling for that last tag, you've got 12 good tags and you're looking for the 13th tag. I think this is a great idea. Put in there any other words that you think are relevant, but you may not have used in other places in your listing. I think that it's a very neat idea. If you're already, if you're already using them though, then yeah, it's a waste of time. You don't need to worry about that. Okay. All right. So I hope that answers your question, Nova. All right. Let's move on to the next slide and do a quick time check here. Ooh, 35 minutes passed and I'm only up to question 5. Okay, so I have to move it on or we'll be here till dinner time. All right, so now this is a terrific question that Pam's asked about repeating tags across your shop. And you can read the question there, but basically it looks like a lot of people have been asking this in the group over the last week. Does it make sense to repeat tags across your entire shop or listings in your shop? Does it increase authority or anything like that? Now, my understanding is that what you choose to put in a certain listing has no material impact on other listings. What really has impact on other listings are things like your feedback scores, are you getting negative feedback and things like that. So I'm not too worried, at least on the outset, at least initially, on how far and wide you put those tags in your listings. But I think the key thing to remember here is that all words that the buyer types into that search box, they have to be found somewhere in your listing's title or tags for Etsy to match your listing with that buyer. So keep that in mind. All those words that you type into that search box or the buyer types into those search box has to be somewhere in your listings. So now, taking that logic in mind, if you've found some great long tail keywords that have got some good purchase intent there, then you want to make sure that all those words are somewhere in all of the listings that are where it's relevant, right? So you don't want to withhold some good words just because you feel like Etsy algorithms are going to work against you in some way. If they're relevant, then put them in there. I really think that is a smart thing to do, especially if you come across a long tail keyword or a phrase that's doing well for one listing. if that phrase works is applicable and relevant to another listing, you should put it in there too. Guess what happens then? Clumping, and it happens in your favor. I know a lot of people hate clumping. They go in there and they search for something and they see 5 listings on page 1 from a competitor's shop. Etsy's only doing that because they've personalized the results because they think you're about to buy from that shop. On the flip side, if someone is showing some sort of tendency to buy items from a shop like yours, or your shop in particular, chances are that they will start to clump your listings as well. So keep that in mind. If you've got multiple listings that match the buyer's search terms, then that works in your favor. So I really think this is a smart thing to do, obviously with a few caveats. So like I said, it's got to be relevant at all times. Don't put in Chihuahua if your needle felted dog is a Doberman. Doesn't make sense, right? It's got to be really relevant there. You got to keep in mind that Etsy do encourage diversity. So if you've got 100 listings that are all identical, there's no benefit there. You want to have some subtle variations to help you get some good coverage for a wider range of terms in there. And that's what I've got in here. So in the example at the bottom there, if you've got 50 different types of needle-felted Havanese dogs, then it makes sense to put that in as a tag. So I see no problem with that at all. You may want to have some variations. Maybe it's a red scarf, a blue scarf. I don't know. Maybe Pam, you can jump in with a few ideas and help me out there. That's I'm getting outside my area of expertise when it comes to felted dogs, but it was kind of top of mind this morning when I was putting this together. So yeah, I don't think there's anything to be too worried about here, providing you make sure that those words are relevant. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. Kay Eaton. Oh, late arrival. Okay, it's going to be recorded, so you'll be able to catch it from the beginning later on if you like. Okay, I'm going to move on here. Pam, I hope that answered the question reasonably well. We can certainly continue the discussion later on. All right. Oh, okay. I've got an answer for you. All right. I'll get back to you on that one there. So, Emily's got a great question here, and it's a good, tough question that I like people to be asking. And it's really about challenging the data that's being presented to you. So she's asking, what does engagement really mean? How should I be looking at search competition engagement together as a trio? Which should I prioritize first? And she goes on to ask some good, tough questions here. How accurate is the data? And what does third-party data even mean? So these are great questions. I'm going to answer them all as best as I can and as transparently as I can as well. So to me, the most important metric, I do like to look at them all 3 keywords, but to me the most important metric is searches. At a very high level, I want to make sure that felted animal or felted dog is being searched by people. Or whatever your category is, you want to make sure that at the highest level, the most broadest term that describes your listing, you want to make sure that people are searching for it. And you want to have a good idea of how many times that's being searched every month. So you can get a sense of whether you're going to be making a fortune or whether you may be making a few dollars each month, maybe 1 or 2 sales. It gives you a high level sense of how much market demand is out there. Next, still looking at searches, what I like to do is pop that broad term into the Keyword Explorer and start looking at related searches, because what I'm doing there is I'm looking for long tail keywords that are very specific, very accurately describe what I'm trying to sell. But at this point, I'm not too worried about the volume. Now that I'm getting specific, I know there are not going to be a huge amount of searches as a general rule. But what I'm looking for are signs of life. I want to see that there is something in there, even if it's just 10 searches a month, because that tells me that people are looking for it. And it also tells me that a lot of other sellers may have overlooked that as a keyword. So you want to get in there and be in people's faces for those sort of keywords. So that's really what I'm looking for in searches. My top priority is always how often that keyword and that phrase are being searched. At a broad level, I want to see some good, healthy sort of volume. At a very specific keyword level, I'm happy with just seeing 10 or 100 searches a month. To me, that tells me that there are people looking for it, and I've got a good chance of optimizing for that and out SEOing other sellers. The next thing I look at is competition. And this, to me, it just tells me, is it easy to rank on page one? If there's a low level of competition, pretty easy. If there's a high level of competition, harder, but not impossible. Here, I also look at competition. If it's really, really low, I look at that and go, maybe there's something wrong here. Maybe what I think is really popular and cool just doesn't sell on Etsy, and that's why the competition is low. So look at that. To me, it gives me a sense of confidence about how I could, with a bit of SEO work, get onto page one. If it's low, generally means easier. But I'm not put off by high levels of competition either. Because let's face it, most people, well, no one's born an SEO expert. No one is born a digital marketer. It's something you acquire over time. And most people on Etsy don't know the first thing about SEO when they start up their shop. So if you see 50,000 plus listings, or you go into Etsy and you see 250,000 listings for that term, don't be put off by it, because there is a very good chance that most of them don't know SEO at all, and with a little bit of optimizing, you can get up into those top pages very, very quickly there. So don't be put off by that. Last thing is engagement. Now I look at this as it's like a tiebreaker in a tennis match. Scores are even, the searches and the competition are about the same. Then I'll look at engagement and go, which one has the higher probability of someone engaging with those search results? And that's when I would use engagement. So to give you a more specific answer about the engagement, it's our estimated or the probability that someone is likely to engage with the listings found in the search results for a search for those keywords that you're looking at there. So we basically look at the historical views and favorites and then try to figure out how probable it is that someone is going to click on those listings. So we do a bunch of other things in there to eliminate anomalies. So there are sometimes there are listings with really, really high exaggerated numbers of views or favorites. We remove those in our calculations and try and normalize the data. So you've got a pretty good engagement idea there. Anyway, to recap, searches, top priority, always look at that. Competition, I like to use that as a confidence level, and the engagement, I use that as a tiebreaker. That's the order that I use there. Now, I'll take a quick breather here. Emily's got two parts to her question. The second part was about third-party data and the accuracy. And these are terrific questions you should always ask. Firstly, the data that we get for searches and engagement, it doesn't come from Etsy. Etsy don't share that with anyone. So keep that in mind. If you go out and you discover xyz.com has Etsy search data directly from Etsy, reality is that they don't. Etsy is not alone in that. Google do not easily share their search volume data. For people who've been watching it and maybe use AdWords as an indicator, historically Google used to give great precise information. Now they share out very rounded numbers, in thousands, sometimes in millions, without a lot of precision in there. So Google are getting a little bit more conservative. They're not sharing as much data as they used to. Bing is excellent at sharing search data. I've used that in the past because of their transparency and because there are millions of people using it. So they still do a good job in sharing search volume information. Amazon, eBay, and I'm pretty sure Walmart and Target and others do not share their data. So that's where third parties come into it. These are companies, it's not Etsy, and it's not us making stuff up. These are third-party companies that specialize in data analytics, that gather behavior, what people have been doing on the internet from their research panels, and look at that and then start to go, okay, well, we've got a percentage of the population here. It's now statistically significant. Let's try and project what that looks like for the rest of the world, or in our case, in the rest of the USA. So we evaluated the world's leading data analytics companies, and I've had the chance to work with them for many years, multiple ones, and I found that they've all got great methods for boosting or making sure that the data is accurate and reliable, but I ultimately ended up picking one that had the most reliable data out there. if you study statistics and you look at sample sizes and things like that, the larger the sample size, the higher the confidence level you're going to have, the lower margin for error and things like that. So you really need to have really big sample sizes. And I picked one that I thought was absolutely excellent in panel size, in reliability, in trustworthiness, and also in terms of protecting people's privacy as well. So I did a lot of work in that. I've got a lot of experience in doing that. So, it's not something that I just sort of went, this one looks pretty good. It's cheap. I'll use them. They were by no means cheap. So that's what we've done there. We've picked a third-party data provider to get this information. That's for Etsy. It's also for Google Shopping. It's also for Google Web Search. So that's where we get that data. I can't say who they come from because I'm under a non-disclosure agreement, so I'm not allowed to say who. And even if I could, I probably wouldn't, just for competitive reasons. But yeah, we did our best to find the exceptional data provider there. It's great for English-speaking markets, especially the US, because it's really based on a US panel. It's still good for other English-speaking markets, but you will not have UK-specific or Australian-specific or Canadian-specific terms in there. That's it. If you target the US, it's going to be great for you. All right. Hopefully that answers the questions there. We've got an old blog post on the eRank site that's still up and running. I'm going to migrate that over to the new site so people can still see all this information. Let's see. I'm just looking at the comments here. Please change the quality of a video translation to 720 for better vision of figures. Okay, thanks Nadia for the feedback. I don't know how to do that right now, but I'm going to look into that at the end of this so that the next Q&A is better. Thanks for the tip there. All right, so let's move on. So Karen, back to you. This is your question here. So Karen was asking, on the keyword tool, should I download and save the searches? And what's the best way to do this on a Mac? So yeah, I think it's very good to download it, especially if you are really into data analytics and you like to get into a spreadsheet and filter and sort and fine-tune those keywords even more. You can do a lot more by downloading the CSV file or the Excel file and then loading it into Excel. If you don't have Excel, there's LibreOffice Calc, which is an open source program, which I actually use all the time. And there are other spreadsheet programs as well. On Mac, I'm not sure that Numbers will open Excel files, but if you were to download the CSV file, you should be able to then load that into Numbers on Mac and then do manipulation of the keyword data there. So I hope that answers your question there, Karen. It's really down to personal preference. If you are a bit of a data geek like I am, then I would download it and then look at the keywords in more detail to see if there's anything else that I can glean from this data. All right, I hope that helps. Yay! Alrighty, let's move on. And 12:50, oh boy. I'm gonna have to be quick. So Denise is asking a great question here about how does Etsy determine revenue from ads? So I had to look around a little bit here to find the latest help article from Etsy about Etsy ads, because there are two articles out there. One's a little bit older. Long story short is that both versions are more or less the same. What happens is when someone clicks on your ad, Etsy makes a note of that, and if that person then goes on to buy something from your shop in the next 30 days, that is attributed to Etsy ads. That's how it works. So the scenarios that you put in there, that will apply for both of those. Etsy will attribute any sale that person any purchase that person makes to your Etsy advertising campaign. That's how it works there. So Denise, I hope that answers your question there. If anyone else has heard differently from Etsy, please let me know. Post it into the group or send me an email. But that's basically how I interpret what's on their latest help article on how they determine revenue from ads. Okay. Let's see. Mrs. Pepper Handmade Jewelry says she uses Google Sheets on her Mac. That's a great idea, actually. That's the web-based one, which is a very neat program as well. Let's see. Chanel is saying, for the keyword search, I keep getting an error that Etsy or Google search trend data could not be found, but I'm searching words that show in the results that are very common. Chanel, that could be the case. You may be getting some of those from your Etsy stats. You know, I'd love to get some examples. I can go back to our data provider and say, guys, is there anything in the data for these keywords? Why isn't it being included? If you can send me some examples, I'll go and have a look at that, see if we can get even more data for you there. I suspect, though, that what's happening is it's searched very infrequently and our panel isn't able to pick it up, or our data provider isn't able to pick it up at high enough volume to provide a reliable estimate. That's what I suspect is happening there. Okay. All right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. Tracking Etsy ads using Google Analytics. So Marcia has asked a great question about tracking Etsy ads using GA. This is a really tricky one, and it's a great question that I think we need to deep dive into next week. So I'm not going to answer it today, Marcia, unfortunately. Didn't quite have enough time to get into my wife's shop. She literally switched over a couple of days ago, so we're only just getting some data now. But next week, I promise you, we'll put some good effort and some time into using Google Analytics so you can start to figure out where those users are coming from, and hopefully give you a little bit more insight that you're not seeing today in the Etsy ad stats. Okay. Can we have a masterclass? Yes, I do intend to create 2 new videos on Google Analytics. One's going to be a 101 sort of introductory level, you know, how to get started. And the next one is going to be something that I promised several months ago, which is a more advanced one. So that'll be using setting up reporting, so you can get email reports sent to you each day. It'll be using goals, if I can get it to work correctly. And we may even poke around with some segments. I'm still figuring out the advanced there. The other one for the advanced is how to set up reporting so that you know what people are searching for on Etsy immediately before they click on one of your listings, because that is really, really good information to have. I haven't seen any other instructional videos out there that explain how to do that for Etsy, but it is possible. I've got it in one of my older Facebook videos there, so it's going to be a really, really cool one that I think everyone will really like. So there will be masterclasses too. I guess I can call them masterclasses, which will help you set up Google Analytics the correct way and get the most out of it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move on. Top sellers by revenue. So Heidi asks a great question. This is a very popular question. Now, who on Etsy makes the most money? The very short answer is, sorry, we're not allowed to share that information with you. This is something that Etsy flag as private, and we have to respect that. Yeah, it'd be really, really cool to know, but I think that's private between the shop owner and the IRS. So that's why we can't show that information. Yeah, sorry, Heidi. It's we have to stick by Etsy's rules here. They're very clear about that. Okay. Oh, do I see the word homework here? Yep, Debbie's giving me homework already. Okay. Getting listings ready for the holidays. So Ellen asked a great question here. Can I share some tips or some examples, I guess, to help optimize for the holidays? I did a holiday video a couple of weeks ago, but I think this would be a really neat thing to do next week, Ellen. I need to spend a little bit of time on figuring out how to do this. I also need a couple of examples as well. So if you're watching or you're looking at that thread in the Facebook group and you want to use your listing as an example, feel free to add it in there or message it to me, and I might use you as a guinea pig next week. I need probably about 3 or 4 different examples to make it really interesting and sort of real life. So yeah, I think it's a great question. I'm, it's almost at the end of the hour, so I really haven't really got the time today to give you a great example there. All right. Last one. So Dean asked a really good question here as well, which was around using high or low CPC keywords. And I'll just read out the question here quickly. With the new Google Ads, should we be looking to use low CPC keywords and avoid the higher ones, even if it means not filling out all the tags? So I think I said this earlier, but really we've got to focus on relevancy. So you shouldn't be removing highly relevant keywords, especially if they look like they've got some sort of purchase intent there. You need to really making sure that you've got relevant keywords in there. That's the first thing. Even if the CPCs are a bit high for some of those, I still think it's worthwhile having in there. But keep an eye on those CPCs. Keep a regular eye on your Etsy stats, Etsy ads stats, and hopefully there's enough information in there to let you know if you're paying too much for those clicks. Keep an eye on your profits. Again, use the profit calculator or the ROI calculator on eRank just to make sure that it's worth your while for those keywords if they're a really high CPC. And also keep in mind the CPCs that we're showing you on eRank, like I said at the beginning, those CPCs are for Google Web Search, not for Google Shopping. You should be looking at the CPCs in your Etsy ads reports. I would also really use all tags at all times. You want to try and attract as many organic searches as possible to your listings. So, with that said, if you still feel like you're onto something here, and I don't think it's a bad idea here to create listings with fewer tags that are more precise, I think it's worth experimenting with. I think that there is some sense to the idea of having a listing maybe with 4 or 5 tags and a short title and promoting that one. In my mind, the logic is that there are all these random words sometimes that Etsy or Google will pick up on and go, I'm going to match your listing for these random terms, and they're not really useful for you at all. They may result in clicks, but people never buying. It could be worth an experiment. I wouldn't do too much on that just yet. But if you feel daring, try it out. I'd love to hear back if anyone's done this already and had some success or any sort of result at all. I think it's an interesting tactic. I wouldn't, as a general rule though, start to remove tags from your listings just because you may be getting some wasteful clicks from Google Ads. I would rather turn off advertising that listing if it wasn't profitable and move on from there. All right, Dean, I hope that answers your question a little bit. I know it's a bit grey and not too definitive, but I hope it gives you a little bit of guidance and maybe some food for thought or an idea for an experiment or two. All right, let me just quickly check on the chat because I'm actually done here right on the hour. So I think we may be able to finish on time here today. All right, let's just quickly check back on the chat window here. Okay, so Chanel's giving me a little bit more information about compression sleeve. I think that's a little bit niche, but you know what? Thanks for the example. I'm going to dig into that and see what there may be out there that could help you there. So thanks for the example. I really like that. Elena, yay, been looking forward to the GA Master. Yeah, I think a few people have. It is really, really cool. My wife's had it set up for over 3 years now, so she can go back 3 Christmases and get an idea of what people were searching for before clicking on her listings from 3 years ago right up until now. So it's really, really useful. I'll definitely get it up there because I know a lot of people are looking forward to it and a lot of people don't know what the power is there. So I think it's really good to share that with everyone. All right. Denise, yes, every week. Occasionally I don't, but for the most part it's every week. So yep, please come on again next Tuesday at midday Eastern Standard Time. All right, I think we are all done here with the questions on the chat. So, thanks everyone for joining and the great questions. We got one. Okay, I'll answer one more question here. What have we got from Elena? Is it true that Etsy takes into account only numbers of sales, but not the sales revenue? Elena, I'll need a little bit more context there. Do you want to message me on Facebook, and I'll see what I can dig up there, because I think it's probably good to make sure that we're not dealing with myths here and actual facts. But yeah, feel free to message me, and I'll see what I can do to answer your question there, Elena. All right, everyone, I'm going to wrap up at this point and wish you all a great day. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. And again, a little thank you to Nova for the cool shirt. Absolutely love it. Everyone, you all have a great day, and we'll see you again next week. Okay, bye for now.